All right, guys, we are back for another episode of the Blue Crocus Experience. Joined today by Sky, and looking forward to diving in. Sky, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Pete? Thank you for having me, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about your background, what you're doing now, and how it all relates back to the junk removal industry. So I'm curious because I've got, I've kind of peeked into your life at various stages on social media and YouTube. But I'm curious if you could just give us some background on where you're at now, and then kind of dive into the story that brought you here. Because I see athlete, I see business owner. I think you were in banking at one point. So selfishly, I just want to kind of hear the background.
Absolutely, man. First things first, I appreciate you having me. You have a great platform, man, and I've seen you grow over the last 2 years myself, and definitely something admirable. So thanks for having me. So basically, a little rundown of who I am and why I'm here. I am. My name is Sky Lane. I ran and operated a junk removal business for around 3 years that I recently sold for a multiple six-figure profit. And how I got to that point, I'm originally from Knoxville, Tennessee, born and raised, grew up in a loving family, played sports my whole life. Football was my main sport. I went on to play in college at 3 different places. I started off at a small Christian school and then played at 2 small D1 schools that I played at. So I played at 3. So I have, just kind of leveled up each time. Had a chance and was getting looked at by a couple of Canadian football teams. And with me, it was, kind of NFL or bust. I had a big injury my sophomore year. So played till I was 21 years old and said, you know what, this is enough. So from that point on, I moved up here to Cleveland, Ohio about 5 years ago and started in banking. I had a good friend up this way. Started off as a regular banker, was promoted to senior banker, and then became a small business banker my last year and a half there. So I worked with small businesses, saw how they, operated, saw the kind of money they brought in, really good ran businesses and really bad small businesses. I helped them get loans and things. So kind of gave me a little bit of a diverse background with sales and business and working with a lot of different type of people. So I worked there. I was there almost 3 years and I knew it was time for a change, man. So, I wanted to start a business. I didn't know whether I wanted to do real estate, hot shot truck and what. And I came across junk removal. I knew a little bit about it because I used to do moving when I would come home for my breaks in college. So I would come home and do moving. So I saw junk removal, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. So I started researching it, sitting on YouTube, all the people that we all love, and grown to love on there. I watched their videos. I watched hundreds of hours and I did my own research. And I had no money. I was broke. I was in debt. And I just was ready to start something. So I waited till tax refund time came around. I bought a pickup truck with about 500,000 miles on it, 2-wheel drive up here in Cleveland, Ohio. So that did absolutely horrible in the snow, but it got me going. So paid $5K cash for that truck. And I financed the dump trailer. I weighed my options, and financing a dump trailer made the most sense to me, brand new, because it was such a small payment. And started, man. So I started off an organic way, did paid marketing. I did over 130K my first year. Second year, over 300,000, and going to my third year, we were going to do much, much more than that. And I was offered a cash deal for my business, kind of out of nowhere. So, I sat back with my lady and we talked about it, and it made absolute sense. So, along the way, I kind of did some consulting over the last year and helped a couple of people, more than a couple of people, but some people grow their businesses to 6 figures. And it's like, you know what? I had proven that, I can at least to the point of where I was. So I said, why not start up my own program? So that's where I'm at today.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm going to dive back into the story a little bit.
For sure.
Why banking?
Banking. So I knew that I didn't know a whole lot about banking, but I always knew that I was decent at sales, or I've always been taught I'm pretty good salesman or whatever, my personality. And at the time, my buddy that was up this way told me, he kind of lied about it, but told me the kind of money that you can make in retail banking, not private banking, but retail. So I was like, oh shoot, I can come in making, hundreds of thousands of dollars and all this, that, and the other. So I was excited. I packed up my car with nothing, 3 weeks out of college, and came up here. And I learned very quickly that was not the case. Even though I was one of the top sales guys in the district and region, was no hundreds of thousands of dollars being brought in, barely thousands of dollars. So, yeah, I learned real quickly that it wasn't for me, but I did gain a skill set over my 3-year period there, that definitely propelled me into junk removal and running my own business.
Cool. What is something that you saw on the banking side that people ran their business poor? Like, what would you say is a few commonalities between people who run their businesses poorly?
Yeah, for sure. One of the main things is has a lot to do with your two things, your personality and your work ethic. I did handle a lot of blue collar businesses in there, and one thing I would see was the mentality, and I see it in quite a bit of the Facebook groups as well. The mentality of hating on the competition, like really having a problem with what competition is doing, complaining, feel like you know how to do everything, and that old style of thinking. And that was the main thing I saw, and I just kind of saw it trickle down. On top of that was work ethic. If the business was under or whatever, the habits, it was bad habits. You're spending most of your money when you don't have it and you work hard enough for it. So, you work a few days a week to pay your bills and then blow out the rest of the money. So we would sit down and we'd go through it, and, they'd be looking for a loan to expand or these type of things. And we're going through bank statements and you're negative every month. And it's like, why are you negative every month? And, there'd be an excuse or whatever. So definitely a habitual and a mindset thing. And then I would see some young cats in there running really, really good businesses, whether it was a cleaning business or something like that. And it was just the opposite side of the spectrum. So it has a lot to do with your mentality for sure.
I like it. I like it.
Absolutely.
Cool. So talk about starting up the business. What was it that you saw junk removal? You did your research. You got the truck. Really poor
Mhm.
choice for Cleveland winters because your winters are pretty similar to ours
Yeah.
here in Canada. But you got through. Got the dump trailer. I'm assuming you financed the dump trailer, right?
Yeah, so my credit was actually not good at the time, or not good enough to finance a dump trailer. I still had like mid to high 600s just because I hadn't had a whole lot of loans. I was young, and I financed the dump trailer through a family member, and I made the payments on it. So I was on it, and the family member was on it, and it was $175. So
Yep.
I was like, dude, that's a no brainer because in my banking head, it's like, why would I go pay $7,000 to $10,000 for a dump trailer or go buy a basic trailer for 3,000 and I don't like this, and it happens. So the dump trailer, that's why I chose that. Junk removal just really brought me in because I was so ready to start being an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I used to cut my teammates' hair at every school I went through. I was the barber. Like I always hustled. I customized shoes. I did all that. And I was like, dude, I'm ready. And when I saw the simple videos, I would see some videos. Obviously, we see Matt and JoJo and Sonoma Strong Holland. And I'm like, dude, the barrier to entry in this is low. Like it's extremely low, and you don't have to be an expert to do it. Like I'm just a regular Joe Schmo, and all I need is the pickup truck. Bet. So I studied, and I have an obsessive personality. So I'm watching videos and taking note all this over for weeks. And I told my girl, I'm like, I'm starting this. So I went and got the truck, got the trailer finance within like a month's time after I got the money, and I was just off.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
How'd you get your jobs? How do you get your first
So
jobs?
I started out organic, man. It was the hustle because, and this is what I teach my students in the program and people that I consulted over the last year to year and a half is anybody can pay for leads. Anybody can pay to get jobs, but that's not what's going to make your business successful. And that's not just me trying to sell my program. That's me being honest. Like you're not going to get results in your business. You're not going to scale. You're not going to do anything until you put in the work ethic. A guy that I pay attention to, a mentor that I've never met, his name is Myron Golden. And he said something, and I posted on my story the other day, and he was like, growing $1 million business is not hard. It really isn't. But becoming that person that runs that business is the hardest part. And that's what I live by. It's like, I can pay for leads. We can pay for leads all day long, and we can have companies that do it. But if you suck at sales, if you suck at your numbers, you don't know your KPIs, if you don't have the work ethic and the presentability to sustain your business, you're gonna fail. So I just got to hustling. I was finding any type of way to get jobs. I would hit Facebook Marketplace. I was on Facebook a lot. I was getting yard signs. I was doing all the organic marketing to make sure that I had habits, because I'm not going to lie to you. My last 6 months at my job, I lost all my work ethic, because I was so sick of being there. I was not putting in the effort I should. So I had to regain that. So I'm like, let me get some of this, let me get some of these good factors and these good habits back. So I was just getting out in the community, going and introducing myself to local businesses and realtors and getting them that way. And as I was at the bank, we probably shouldn't have been doing, but if I knew customers, we're talking about moving or anything, I just like, hey, on the side, I'm doing this because I knew I was on my way out, and I scout my first customers like that.
Yeah. The organic side is so key. That's what when we started our business, that's what we did as well. I was in the Facebook groups every day, searching for the terms junk removal, estate cleanouts, all of that, and then I would just message
Yeah.
them and be like, hey, we're here, we're the best, we're awesome.
Yeah.
So there's something for that. I still tell clients to do that. So awesome. So you kind of built that up, and now I'd kind of like to fast forward to the selling of the business. I don't
Yeah.
know how much you can tell. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
background noise. The kids are playing upstairs.
That's
But
fine.
what was the selling like? And what was, well, I know it's tough to sell a business. There's a lot of weird stuff you got to do in the back end. But walk us
Yeah.
through that, because I think that there's probably some things you would have done differently if you had known you were going to sell it, and there's probably
Yeah.
some things you would do if you were to start a business again to make it more sellable.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, this is what as we as business owners have to know, because I see people in the Facebook groups as well that are often trying to get out of the business, or and they have to part out their business and all this, that, and the other. Listen, it doesn't matter, because when I would say I sold my business in my videos, and I would have people under my comments like, how much are we doing in revenue? What does multiple six figures mean? All this, that, and the other. And it's like, I could be doing $2 million in revenue, but if I'm not profitable and I don't have anything that's appealing to a buyer, I'm not going to be able to sell my business. The revenue doesn't matter. It matters what you bring in at the bottom line. So I know people out there with $1 million, $1.5 million businesses that cannot sell their business for what I sold mine for, and I wasn't doing more than $500,000 in revenue. So the important part about selling your business, and that's going to be the next phase of my program that I offer, is people who's been in this game that's looking to exit, or has is moving to something else, how to do that. The biggest part is making sure that you are appealable to a buyer. So things that make you appealable to sell in your business, just like when I used to work in banking, are, you need to be profitable. You need to have a really good profit margin for what your revenue is. Your assets and what we have going on is not as important as some may think. So you may have trucks paid off, you may have all these things paid off, but at the end of the day, we don't sell businesses like we used to 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's not so much based off of a multiple in our small business. So any business doing under 5 million in revenue, the multiple, people sell businesses at a multiple, it doesn't really matter that much. What matters is how you run your business and where you're at right now, because it's going 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an owner operator coming in to run your business. Most people in these groups, and all of us, we're all small, doing under $2 million. So whoever comes in is going to have to be getting their hands dirty, likely. I would say, yeah, being appealable to your buyer, making sure you have your numbers and your back end down. Like, you need to make sure, and that was the most stressful part, making sure you have all your numbers and your ducks in a row. And that's why I say knowing your numbers and your KPI is so important, because if you do ever get to that point and you've been using your business account for personal expenses and all this other, you are not going to be very appealable, and nobody's going to want to buy it, because they're buying into something they're going to have to work in, and your numbers all over the place. Some things that I wish I would have done different is, it only took up 3.5 months to sell my business, which I figured out was very quick in the grand scheme of things. I didn't know that. Usually a business, I think they said 70% of businesses don't sell once you list them. And on top of that, the average time is 6 to 12 months. So I had a really, really motivated buyer in the area. And I would say one thing that I would do different is get a lawyer and make sure you have your ducks in a row. Get a broker. Don't try to sell your business on your own and list your business, because you don't know the steps you take. Just like when you're buying a house, 9 times out of 10, get a realtor, get a business broker, and then get a lawyer that you vibe with. I had to go through, it took me like my 3rd time was a charm with a lawyer. Like, if you get a lawyer that is just an a-hole, dude, doesn't really care about the process that's going on or anything like that, you'll get screwed over in the deal, and he could potentially ruin the deal for you, which almost happened. I had a lawyer that I had to absolutely get rid of because he just was not there. So that's some of the pointers I would definitely say when you're looking to sell and things. Make sure you have those ducks in a row.
That's brutal about the lawyer. That's interesting. What tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, basically, we're in the middle of the deal, and the dude is talking to the buyer's lawyer, and he is talking in such a condescending way, in an assholish way. That's like, I had to talk to my broker. My broker's like, dude, your lawyer's about to ruin this deal. Like, he was like, oh, you don't have this in order, and you have to have these certain documents in before. And he's saying it in a way that's like, if somebody was talking like that to me, we'd have a serious problem. So as soon as I found that out, I was like, bro, that same day you're out of here. And he was calling me and all these things. I'm like, no, that's just completely unprofessional. And like, you're about to ruin a major deal for me. So
That's wild. That's wild.
yeah, definitely.
Very interesting. So if numbers, knowing your numbers, good. It sounds like you got a broker and a lawyer.
Yep.
Sounds like you did that. That's good. What else is it that aside from profit? I mean, yeah, you're right. Lots of businesses out there doing 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, but they're
Mhm.
also not taking home hardly anything. And so
Mhm.
why would someone want to, a business should be a cash machine for you. A
Yep.
lot of people have a job that's really
Yep.
stressful and that they work
Yep.
in 24/7. And so no
Yeah.
one's going to want to buy a 24/7 stressful job. So
Yes.
those are the main things you take away. Anything else that comes to mind there?
Um, I would definitely say like that part you just mentioned about working a job. Um, at some point you have to switch your mentality from the hustle, the go get it mentality to the like the smart-minded businessman or woman. Like at the end of the day, you can have $1 million a year business, you could have multiple locations, you can have all these things. But at the end of the day, like if you are not completely removed for the business to work on the business, because we hear that a lot, don't work in the business, work on the business. At some point, if you don't do that, even at an early stage, you can do that. But if you don't do that, it doesn't matter. And when you start to remove yourself, that doesn't mean that you still take all that time and go focus on something else. You should be growing. And that's why people ask me, they're like, man, why didn't you just franchise before you left? Well, first things first, you need to be doing over a million, million and a half to even think about franchising. And second, you have to decide a goal of what your business is. I knew coming into this, there were two goals for me. One, and I had to choose one or the other. One, did I want to grow this business to a 5 to 10 truck operation and own my community? Or did I want to franchise this thing? Once I hit a million or 1.5 million, I was out and I was going to start franchising, because a lot of people have a false narrative about franchising. Franchising is one of the hardest things you will ever do. You will not make money in franchising for a very, very long time. It's like a gray area when you're running your business. You make up to $350,000, you're profiting a lot of it. As soon as you cross over from like 350 to 750, that's a gray area where you don't profit in any business from 350 to 750, especially service based. You don't profit much more money, hardly at all, than you were making at 350 and under, because you start adding in systems, you start bringing people in, those type of things. And that's the same thing with franchising. It don't matter if you have 10 locations, you could still be almost tapped out every single month if not doing their thing. So my goal was to franchise originally when I was starting my journey, but as I started to, grow, see what was going on and everything, I'm like, you know what? The more people I talk to, they want a mom and pop setup. They'd like to make $150,000, $200,000 a year, put money in their pocket, go on those vacations, take their kids to these places. Like, they don't really care about having this multi-million-dollar business. So I'm like, you know what? I got here pretty quick and I've already helped people do that. Now I really want to do it, because some people in the coaching spaces online are phonies, like they're frauds. So they sucked in the business and they failed, and now they're trying to rip people off. And I'm like, nah, we're not going to do that. Like, we're going to truly help people get to where they need to be. So that's how I got to this point.
Yeah, franchising is no joke. I know, talking to Joseph Martinez with Troops All Junk, there's it's a long process, man. And he's a detail oriented person, and man,
Yeah.
the hoops they had to jump through. He was sharing some of it over a 2 year period of
I've
me.
seen well, I've seen some of his videos, and like I see him, the Vets Hall Junk, and shout out to Joseph, man. He's definitely, I can tell he's got that military mind state, and very disciplined. But the kind of discipline that you need for that, man, because you got to think, when you're running your business, you have to worry about what's going on there. When
Yep.
you start selling your franchise to other places, you have to not only make sure your base home is doing right, you got to make sure that every location you have is performing, because if they're not, now it's from the top down and they're all, you know what I mean? Like, you can't fail in that aspect, because if you fail, you're done. Like as soon as one or two locations fail, your franchising days are over for that company from my experience. So, hats off to him, man, because to even last 2 years in the game is impressive.
Yeah.
In franchising.
No, they're doing well franchising, but it's a legal process to make it happen.
Yes.
It's a big legal process.
Absolutely.
So talk about let's dive into opening up the course a little bit and giving people some tips here. Let's go into a little bit of coaching. What's like the number one thing that you're teaching people?
The number one thing that I'm teaching people, and the name of my program is Junk Success Beginner to Six Figures. It's a 6-week program where we meet weekly, and we do a live, kind of live like this, and you're given resources. But what I teach in there is nothing about getting more jobs and leads. We're getting away from that. Like you're going to get more jobs and leads, and there's resources, but that mentality has got to go out the window. Like, yes, we have to get leads, but it's for people who have not hit that 6-figure mark and they've been in business for a couple of years or they're brand new. We got to get you to 6 figures because you don't know what that's like. Working a 9 to 5 and running a 6-figure business is 2 different worlds. You can't think that you're going to be a millionaire. You got to take steps. You got to get to 6 figures first. Then you got to get to $500,000. Then you got to get to $1 million. And from that point on there, it's up. So I'm teaching you and I'm teaching my students how to get to that 6-figure mark and take those habits and everything we're learning in the business and go with it. So you're guaranteed within 90 days to be doing 10K months, or I will coach you one-on-one until you do, if you do the homework that you're given every single week. And that's the thing. Like I'm not teaching you how to run ads and do all these things. There's people such as Blue Crocus Solutions that spent time and years and got that down to a T. Pay a company to do that. You are trying to run your business and you haven't had, some of the people haven't had a whole lot of success. Let's let a company that really, hones in on that and knows what they're doing, do that while we go and work on the business and learn how to run and create those habits. Because one thing I'm knowing on these calls that I hop on with people when they're thinking about joining the program is they just want the jobs and they want the guess what? You could have a great year, but if you don't know what the heck it took you to do that great year, you have no habits, or you don't know how to track your KPIs, which is number one, you're done. I'll squash you. Like if I'm your competition, I will squash you if you're in my area. So it's like I'm teaching you how to really be a boss, and that way you can go up from there.
So why 6 figures? I love it. It's catchy, right? If you're just starting out, you want to hit that, the 10K months. But you're really not taking home a ton as a business owner if you're just hitting 6 figures. So walk us through that.
So beginner to 6 figures and 100K is the mark, because you'd be surprised at how many of these businesses are nowhere near 100K. And some have done 100K their first year and then turn around and do 40K the next or 60. And they don't know why, like what the heck happened. And then they start blaming it on saturation. I'm like, dude, saturation, go look at plumbing or landscaping, talking about saturation. We don't even have $1 billion junk removal company yet. Big Blue is not even worth $1 billion, so it's not even close. But 6-figure is the mark to where you cross over into another lane, mentally, like tax bracket wise, however you want to call it. When you hit 6 figures, you operate. Man, I know as soon as I crossed over that 100K mark, it was like, dang, I can do this. I just went from making 50K to making 130. If I can make 130, why can't I do 3? Why can't I do 5? And why can't I do $1 million? These are milestones we have to check off. You do not want to go from making $50,000 a year to $700,000. You have no clue how to even manage that. And that's why people talk about winning the lottery and stuff. It's like, that's the worst. That's the worst thing in the world. Like, that's terrible. You're going to go broke. So we need to check off that 6-figure mark. And also, before I launched this program, I did a thing for 9 months where I was taking people's calls. I was giving free 10-minute calls and getting research. And I was saying what the average revenue is, how long you've been in business. And a majority of those people were not doing 6 figures consistently at all. So that's the baseline. Now, if you take what I'm teaching in the program, you should do well over $100,000. But let's set that baseline because you haven't got there yet.
Makes a ton of sense. Sense. I remember starting out as well. 10 a month was the dream when I started, right?
That was my thing, dude. I would think about it, making 50K a year. I'm bringing home $1,300 checks. So I'm making $2,600 a month. I brought home 10K on my 3rd month, or I brought home $10,900 in the month of, I think it was November or October. And I sat there and I could have cried, bro. It was like, I can do this. And that 10K per month is 120K a year. So that's why the six-figure things. Some people have like, this is like, they've never really made a lot of money. And that was me. I never made a lot of money. So as soon as I just touched that, I'm like, I believe in myself now. I'm like, dude, I made 10K. My mom couldn't believe it. Like, yeah, it's on now.
It's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone, a
Yeah.
very critical one. I see what you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah, I think there's,
Absolutely.
I mean, for those listening who are in a, that should be your stepping stone. I'm saying stepping stone for a reason, because 120K, you've got your truck, you've got, if anybody's helping you out, you've got to pay them, you've got your dump fees, you've got your insurance. There's costs that come out of that. So don't go crazy on that. But
Right.
it's a stepping stone to the 250, to the 300, to eventually to where you're making 86,000 a month, and then
Yes.
moving up from there, right? So
Good.
yeah, that's cool. So pull out your best nugget here. I'm all about sharing the value, and I think that the best stuff should be shared. What
Absolutely.
is a nugget that you see a lot of people struggle with, and you
Mhm.
see a lot of success when either you implemented it or someone that you've helped along the way has implemented?
Yes. So that nugget, I'm going to split it in half and give you two things. And the same thing that I tell anybody in the program, anybody I speak to. The very first thing you want to focus on if you want to have successful jungle business or anything, are your habits. You look at yourself in the mirror, and I don't mean this to be cliche, but I mean this wholeheartedly. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, are you a 6 or 7 figure person? Or are you like, is that who you are? Are you capable of making it? Are you capable? Okay. Are your habits there? Are you grinding every single day to get there? No. Let's fix that. We got to change our habits. We got to start with small and work from there. So we got to get you some habits and your work ethic. So that's number one. Number two is knowing your numbers. Knowing your numbers is what's going to separate you from having a successful business or not, period. So everything, you need to know your expenses, your income, your ad spend. You need to be tracking what you're doing every single day, the money you bring in and the money going out. And that's something I built out for, my students. I built them out a KPI tracker that is very simple, but is and that's part of their homework. They have to have it done every day when they come to class each week. You better have those numbers in, because if there's something that's not working, the first thing I'm going to go do is go look at your numbers and make sure it's updated. If it's not updated, I can't help you because you're not helping yourself. So knowing your numbers is what's going to make you a successful person, because subconsciously, when you're putting in your numbers every single day, when you're going over your numbers, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to know where your money's going and what's working. I know if I spent, $2,000, $3,000, let's say I spent $3,000 in Google ads, and I go down and I had 40 jobs last month, and I would put my source. So where did this job come from? And I see that I have 20 from Facebook ads and 20 from, off SEO or just off Google. Well, hell, I just spent $3,000 last month when I could be putting that somewhere else in my business. What does that do? That gives me motivation to be like, okay, let me throw this money here of where this is working. Let me throw this into more SEO or whatever and do that. And what that's going to do is that's going to equal more success. And that more success equals you being motivated to that next level.
That makes a ton of sense. It
Sure.
does come down to the stuff we do every day, and it's surprising. It's surprising what happens when you start tracking that. Now, on top of just the habits and the mirror thing, and I'm saying it sounds cliche when I'm saying it, but there is
Yeah.
merit to that. What are some habits that you start training them to do as far as getting out? I know we talked about messaging people in the groups, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What are some things that they can do that kind of develop them as marketers for their own business? I talk a lot about you've got to be a hunter and not a gatherer. A lot of
Yes.
clients, when they come to us, they're gatherers. They just want us to
Yeah.
put leads in their lap. You got to
Yeah.
have the hunter mentality. You got to hunt the leads that we give to you. Go
Yep.
after them until they tell you to F off or they die, right?
Yep.
You want to follow those leads down until they, you either make a job or, they tell you to leave, right?
Yep.
But talk about some of the actions that people can take.
So there's two. So that feel like that's something I keep saying. There's two things.
You're just always going to come back.
There's two. So number one is you got to be good. You have to have some kind of baseline for sales, man. Like, and that's what I need. I have to help people understand is sales is not the cheesy car salesman pitch from the 80s. Sales is you're solving somebody's problem, bro. If I show up to a job and someone's, family member just passed away, and they have 4 rooms, a basement, and a garage full of stuff. Their pain point is, I do not want to deal with this. I just lost my brother. I'm crying. This is horrible. The last thing I want to do is have to go through all this stuff and clean it out, let alone if he was a nasty person. So how can I help this person out? Well, I'm going to go in and let them know that we're going to have this job, that we will take this off your hands. We will have it done within today. We'll do multiple loads if we have to. Here's the price for us to get this. This is what we need to be able to get this done. I have 3 people coming. I pulled them off another job. We can start now. How does that sound to you? Like, that's a lot better being able to do that than going to somebody and crying for leads all the time. Because if you can do that, you have now made an impact in that person's life. That person will be your biggest form of advertisement. You take care of that person in that situation, they'll tell everybody. And I have a philosophy, like, you are great in your life, or you're in your life, or you suck. Like, there's no in between. You're great, or you suck at everything you do. So, and I'm not talking about athleticism or anything. I'm talking about like how the effort you put in. So we all remember people in our lives or companies in our lives that were really good or really bad. Everybody in between gets lost in the sauce. Well, if I'm a pretty good company, I don't remember you. You know what I mean? Like, if you sucked, I remember you. You're great. So that's number one is your sales. Like, let's work. If you're not very good at sales, or you're uncomfortable, do role plays with your wife or your significant other, your husband. It'll be weird at first. You feel goofy, they'll laugh in your face, but eventually you're going to get good. You're going to get good to talking to people. You're not going to feel like you have to break down every single expense in your business, because newsflash, nobody cares about your expenses, and nobody cares that you're paying this, that, and the other. That's the worst thing you could do. Keep talking about price. It has nothing to do with that. It's about solving your problem, and everybody's not your customer. Number 2 is like you said, the hunter-gatherer mentality. That's the hunter, is the sales, and going out and getting them. You have to be the face of your company and your community. Like, the jobs. So I have this thing I say is like, paid advertising gets you jobs, and organic runs your business. Like, you're going to be able to build your business off organic. That's what builds you. Everybody knowing you, going to parades, people seeing you. Those are the repeat customers. Anybody who's in junk removal that's successful knows repeat customers and commercial jobs is how you grow and stay in this business. Paid jobs don't get you, they get you money for right then and there, and that doesn't give you any sustainability. So get those jobs, pay to get jobs, and use organic marketing, going out into your community and doing things to build your business.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I mean, you can turn those paid jobs into longer lasting clients. You know, there's some lifetime value there, and there's
Yes,
some referrals.
yes.
But
And
it's a
I
lot
don't want to miss
different
out
than
on the paid jobs, but like, what I mean by that is, like, I was investing heavily. You know, at one point I was doing almost $4,000 in ads or whatever, 3,500, something like that. So yes, paid marketing, that's part of it. But the basis of your company and like how you run it your main focus should not be, I need to pay to get these jobs. You need to put in the work to learn how to do the whole process, and let the paid jobs just fund. Let them just come in, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of got to build that foundation. I love it,
Yes.
man. Any last thoughts before we leave the audience? You know, let's talk about how they can connect with you. But any last thoughts aside from that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I would say that anybody can do this, man. Anybody with work ethic, anybody with that's willing to learn and listen. And there's tons of free information. Lewis is kind of like the pioneer behind this whole, the whole like SEO and getting your things down on the I won't say software, but like behind the scenes and things like that. I've seen you over the last 3 years. I've seen your Facebook group grow. You don't grow to all these thousands of followers without people finding value. So hats off to you. You know what I mean? And all the other people out there that's really done this type of thing. If you are someone who is not doing 6 figures in your business, or you're brand new to junk removal, you're willing to invest in your education. You know, you got to have some skin in the game. This isn't something free. If it's free, you're not going to stick with it. So if you're ready to invest in your education and you want to get to that point, then you can reach me on Facebook DM. You can go to junksuccess.myshopify.com. Go on there, see what I'm about, book a free Zoom call with me, and we'll see if you are a good fit for the program. Everybody's not a good fit, but if you are ready to work and invest in yourself, then we can definitely get to work.
I love it, man. Yeah, anybody can do this, but to be great, you gotta separate yourself from the group. So, guys, appreciate
Absolutely.
you showing up. Jason, I actually missed your comment here. You said create the work over competing for it. I believe that was when we were chatting about being a hunter versus a gatherer. Appreciate you
Yes.
showing up. Appreciate you engaging while we were on here. And it is Veterans Day as well, so appreciate those who served. When this goes live on the podcast and whatnot, it'll be after that. But yeah, great episode, Scott. I appreciate you showing up. Scott has been like my number one fan since the show started. Scott and I go way
Absolutely.
back. I think he was watching the first episode and sharing it out and commenting on it. He's the one listener that's followed this path all the way through. So
Yeah.
Sky, appreciate your jumping on here. Appreciate you dropping some info here, and I was glad to get to know a little bit more of the backstory. And guys, reach out if you're interested in chatting. At the very least, you're going to get some value on his calls. Jump on a Zoom with him, chat it up, and see where it goes.
Let's do it,
Awesome,
man.
Appreciate you. We'll end the stream. Stick around here, and we'll chat soon, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thank you.